Hi, Jonathan here at Soma Fit, and again we're going over Olympic Taekwondo. This segment's going to go over and review footwork. Now there are a few basic stances, basic footwork positions in Taekwondo that enable a person to then move on to more complicated, more advanced sparring, and more complicated footwork combinations. Now I'm going to parallel you guys and give you a frontal view of my body as I'm standing in what would be considered fighting stance. Now, fighting stance is different for every person. It's a very kind of personal stance. I'm going to have my feet hip width apart or a little wider than hip width apart, and I'm going to come on to the balls of my feet. So I'll have my heels slightly raised off of the floor. Now my weight is going to be distributed 65-35, 60-40, more weight on the front leg than is on the back leg, and I'll explain why in a second. So as I take that position with my heels just slightly off of the floor, my hands are going to come up. I'm going to keep my hands up with fists clenched with my elbows tucked in. Now the elbows are very important to keep the elbows tucked in. We don't want them wide. We want to tuck them in. They're going to protect my abdomen and stomach, ribs as well. Here, for example, even if I stood here and absorbed a kick, my forearms really act as a guardrail to protect my rib cage and my stomach. So it's very important to keep my elbows tucked in. Now my fists and my hands protect my upper body and my head, which is quite vulnerable, it can be vulnerable, to kicks to the head and knockout kicks. Again, Taekwondo is a kicking art. The kicks are very, very powerful in their knockout power, and they come very quickly and very deceptively. So it's very necessary to have your guard up at all times. Now, the areas of the head that I'm going to be protecting will be my temples, the bridge of my nose, my chin. And so I'm doing that with my hands, fists clenched, reason being that loose fingers will get broken if they're hit by a foot. So I'm here. I'm going to bounce just softly, again with my heels off of the ground. And what I'm going to think about doing is going forward and back just slightly. Now, for this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and roll up my pant leg. Now again, my feet are hip width apart. I'm on the balls of my feet, so my heels are just slightly off of the ground. Again, want to think about just gliding across the floor. And I'm doing like an inch forward and back step. And we'll number those 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now that's the very most basic kind of footwork combination that one would use in sparring. Now to add on to that, there are a few other techniques. One being a chunjin step, the Korean pronunciation, which would be a step forward. So as we step in Taekwondo, we're not going to step one foot at a time. Rather, we would step both feet at once. Reason being, it saves less time. And again, you're always thinking about how am I going to attack my opponent or execute an attack on my opponent as quickly and as decisively and deceptively as I can. So here, as I'm moving forward and forward, back and forth, I'm going to then take a step forward, which is about 6 inches. And again, that doesn't have to be specifically 6 inches. I'm just, again, imagining that I have somebody in front of me and I want to close that distance. So again, if I step back, I'm here going forward and back, forward and back. I'm going to take that chunjin step forward. And if you notice, my feet do not move 1, 2, but they move 1 together. And chunjin forward. Now, the reverse of that is called a hujin step. Again, that's the Korean pronunciation, and that's a backward step. So, again, I'm here, let's say I chunjin forward, then let's say my opponent decides to attack, and I want to trap him with something else, and I hujin back. Now, the hujin step changes things just slightly. What we're going to do for a hujin step is we're going to take the left leg, in this case, which is my back leg, and gently raise it off of the floor, just, I would say, 2 inches maximum. And for the most part, whatever steps you're doing, you want to think of your feet just kind of gliding along water or gliding along the kind of base of the floor. So I'm never raising my feet too high, except when I'm really actually executing a kick. So again, in a hujin step, I'm going to take my left leg, my back leg, just a few inches off of the ground. That's going to be kind of like the trigger that pulls that barrel back so that the bullet can then shoot actually in this direction back. So again, I'm here, back and forth. My foot comes up, and I hujin back. So we have then basic fighting stance. We have a chunjin step forward and a hujin step back. Now, to moving along, adding on to that, you'd have a step forward, which again, now I'm going to come to face the camera. So you are my opponents, the viewers, and I'm here. And let's say I need to really cover a greater distance. What I'm going to do then is I'm envisioning kind of like a balance beam or being on a balance beam, and that's the distance or the width that I'm going to stay within. So as I'm here and I need to cover more distance forward, I'm going to step forward. And stepping back. So as I'm stepping, I'm not going to step circular. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step forward and allow my legs to brush, and I'm here quickly. So once again, I'm here, I'm relaxed, I've decided what I want to do, and I'm forward. Now I can add 2 to those to really cover distance. And then that becomes more of a running step. And so as you add to the running step, you can then proceed that with some kicks. Now, from there, we have a forward step. We as well have a reverse step, which is a backward step. Now, the backward step can happen in 2 manners. One is a little more advanced than the other. Now, I could do a simple backward step where I'm here. Let's say you, the viewer, have a step forward and engage me. I'm going to then, again, just like I stepped forward, brush my legs back and step back. Again, on the balls of my feet, and I'm back and back. Here I am again, and back and back. Now, I'm stepping back, in essence, towards my right, with my right leg. So my right leg goes back towards my right, and if I want to step back with my left leg, towards my left. Now I can also do 180 degrees kind of in the opposite direction, which becomes more of a circular technique by taking my right leg towards my left and turning towards my left. And so I'm here, relaxed, and what I'm going to do is I'm taking my right leg, and for a quick second I'm going to give you my back, but it is literally a quick second. Now that's where the it becomes more advanced, lays in the fact that you do have to give your back for a quick second, so you want to be aware of that, because you certainly do not want to give your back to an opponent for too long. I mean, it needs to be literally a fraction of a second. So I'm here, I step forward and step back. And we can add 2 to that. And I could step back and step back, step forward, step forward. And with each more advanced, more complicated technique, it requires me to have a fair amount of balance, body awareness, and center of gravity. I need to be really aware of my center as I turn back and turn back, or turn back and turn back. And if we had here a balance beam, I would be securely on that at all times. And so I'm visualizing a small little lane, and that's where my feet are going. So regardless of whether I'm here, I'm chunjining or hujining, I'm stepping forward, stepping back, stepping forward. There's a whole slew of combinations that can be utilized on the mats in a tournament scenario. So that is footwork in a nutshell for Taekwondo, and we covered very basic and a little bit more complicated footwork, I'd say more moderate footwork, that can be used in sparring. What's coming up next is a round kick. Thanks very much.